Well, folks, good evening to you one and all, and welcome to a night of, the only word I can think of is iconic. Coming to you from the second year productions studio down here in the friendly city of Cape Town in Velgelegen. And some amazing weather we've had in the last hour, massive lightning and storms, but lucky where we're doing some racing today, the weather is a whole heap better. In fact, it's the early morning. And joining me here in the studio to bring you something completely different. And once again, I use the word iconic. The voice of Responders for Motorsport, Frankie Yennis. Frankie, good evening to you.
Gazza, good evening, and hello to everybody at home. Yeah, we come to you from NORDSCHLIEFE. That's basically the Nürburgring, also known as the Green Hell. And it is going to be 1 hour of absolute pandemonium. We are predicting approximately 9 laps because the lead car in practice was doing 6 minutes and 41 seconds, which was Luke Lucchesi. So yeah, we come to you from Germany, and 25 minutes done out of the 30 minutes qualifying session, and Luke Lucchesi is the quickest man out there with 6 minutes and 42.358 seconds a lap. He was doing 6:41s in practice early on. Gerald Fourie only 0.5 of a second behind Luke Lucchesi, and Francois Hubert hold 2.7 seconds behind provisional pole sitter Luke Lucchesi.
Jan Spammers has decided to park it. He's done his times that he can already. He can't make up yet another lap. Peter Hubert is still out there on circuit. He thinks that he's able to complete another one. So he's still out there on circuit. He's Peter Hubert. Jaco Steyn is, well, he's done his 2 laps. He says, that's all for me right now. And then Willem Botha. And he's got the Red Bull colors on that one. Very, very nice. Well, I suppose Max Verstappen is doing pretty decent. Why not stick a bit of Red Bull on your car? A rather bright Subaru blue amongst that Red Bull red. But Willem Botha finds himself in a pretty decent position. Having finished his times already is Sway Hubert, as we have a look at some of the epic sign writing that's on the circuit. Robbie Teens, he's finished his times as well. So he's also parked. So has Stephen McCarthy. That's what Stephen's car looks like. So just about everybody, in fact, has completed their times. They don't believe they're going to be able to make another lap. But look at the lap times. 6 minutes 42. 22.8 kilometers of total unknown left, right, and who knows what.
Yeah, and 40 plenty corners out here at this Nürburgring long circuit. Probably the longest endurance track in the world, this one. And this is the circuit where Niki Lauda in 1976, racing for Ferrari, had that massive accident. Remember those years, the Grand Prix cars didn't do the short Nürburgring F1 GP circuit. They did this one that you see the guys on here. And that was the race that he made that accident when the car burst into flames and he had all those facial burns. And only about 3 Grand Prix later, he forced the helmet over his head and went out there and finished 4th overall after being in hospital for like 6, 7, maybe even 8 weeks. And yeah, but that was only Niki Lauda. There'll only ever be one great late Mr. Niki Lauda. And of course, that was the season he had that massive fight for the championship with the Englishman, with James Hunt. And a little bit of a Formula One history on this track that the guys are on now, with 28 minutes done. So pretty much where you see them out there now. André Steenkamp still trying to take the 46 around, and hopefully he can better on that 20th position. Don't quite know who's going to get that one right. Maybe we'll have to look and see.
That, in fact, Frankie, is Renier Hubert, and Renier Hubert has not got a lap time up. So how does the whole trick work? Well, there is 23, 4, 5, 6, there's about 28 cars.
Well, Niederberg won't put a lap time
Oopsie.
up, Gary, because this is what he's doing.
Well, the guys that have not been able to have clean laps, Renier Hubert, Eugene Manouk, Wayne Camage, Jaco Forster, and he was in the top 3 earlier on when we were watching some of the open practice, and then Davy Hubert that have not been able to get clean laps. So you don't have too many opportunities. Jaco Forster is still trying to put in a time, but I don't think it's going to work for him. There's only 1 minute left at this stage of the fight, so I don't think that even he will be able to get a time going there. Just about everybody has had their out lap and 2 flyers. You can't get a third one in. There's just not enough time. So it looks like Willem Botha is still moving around on circuit. Let's see if we can pick him up. Yep, there's Willem Botha.
Well, with 25 seconds left before the checkered flag comes out, he's not going to be able to better that 8th position. That's highly unlikely. I think he's too far away from that very, very, very super long straight, which I think is more than 1 kilometer long. And the moment the guys get onto that part of the track, that's when you know they are heading towards the end of the lap. And looking where he is now on the circuit with the time up, well, that's it. He will not better that 8th position. And he will start in P8, 5 seconds behind pole sitter Luc Lucchesi, who has got Gerald Fourie there on his outside. And the second row is Jaco Forster and Francois Pienaar. Third row will be Jan Spalmers and Pieter Hubert.
Wow. Well, to get into that top 6, you've got to be utterly brilliant. Jaco Steyn from Willem Botha with Swayze Hubert and Robbie Teams. And well, it's nice to have Robbie out there again. And that I met at Kalani International not that long ago. And what a fantastic guy to chat to.
Yeah, then we've got Stephen McCarthy and Atti Nagel. Row 7, Mike Verrier and JJ van der Merwe. Row 8, Peter van der Spey and Graham Stephen. Row 9, Johan Engelbrecht and Andre Steenkamp. Row 10, Sander Bakari, Herman Lazarus. Row 11, Gerald Maget and Willem Pienaar. Row 12, Ian Riddle and Davy Hubert. And row 13, Renier Hubert and Wayne Camage. And on his own in row number 14 in 27th position is Eugene Manouk.
Wow, wow, wow. Who would have thought that we got 27 guys? In fact, that is everybody that paid subs for Sports and GT Masters for the the 5th season of
There's
Sports
one
and
name
GT.
missing out of that 27. There's no Johan Fourie out there.
Oh, yes. Wow, that's quite an omission, Johan Fourie.
And he's
So
lying
that's-
second in the championship.
Yep, well, that's going to cost him pretty dearly. So let's go back to the front end of the field, those front rows. Luc Lucchesi setting the pace, 6 minutes 42, half a second slower is Gerald Fourie, the father of Leighton Fourie, Polar Cup champion. Jaco Forster doing very well. Jaco Forster is in fact coming down to Cape Town, and he will be here on the 16th of the month and on the 17th Extreme Festival down at Kalani. And he said he's going to join us at Kalani International Raceway up in the commentary box, and then in the second gear studios the Wednesday after that. So we'll get the inside line from one of our top racers, Jaco Forster, with a bit of luck when he joins us then on the Wednesday evening. Pace car comes off the line. Peter Hubert, Jaco Steyn, Willem Botha, Swayze Hubert, Robbie Teams rounding out the top. And phew, what do you say? I mean, this is iconic cars. Porsche GT3 is the 992 Cup version. And in the words of Johan Engelbrecht and numerous others, when you drive these Porsches, if you drive it on the limit, it feels like the car wants to kill you. Because at any given time, there's just so much power that it just wants to bring the back end around, and you've got to really hang on to these cars. Now, I speak under correction, Frankie, but I seem to think from looking through the data that we have to hand that there's actually one of the 6 hours still to come is in fact on the NORDSCHLIEFE, and it in fact is with these cars. If I am correct, this is an opportunity for the older hands to have an hour run on the circuit and get a little bit more accustomed to it, that we can bring others apart from Francois Hubert and be easy in amongst them.
Yeah, look at Willem Botha. He's got Jaco Steyn just in there behind him in that 88. They are chopping and changing positions, but that's just on the out lap. And we are about to go green here for 1 hour at the Nürburgring. This is the Grand Prix circuit, not the Grand Prix circuit. This is the endurance track out there, also known as the Green Owl. And Lucchesi was jumped there by Jaco Forster on the line. And as Forster sits out there in P1 with Lucchesi in that second position. There's a train of cars, and that is, it's a massive accident there. Steenkamp was involved in that one. There's cars turning themselves upside down and inside out, and it's complete utter chaos. The 46 of Steenkamp was in there. There's a couple of cars that was turned around in front of him. He missed that and then got it all wrong and sticks the nose into the Armco barrier, and then after that it's just pandemonium all around Andre Steenkamp.
Wow, that was something else. A couple of guys are going to find themselves straight back into the pits. Andre Steenkamp, the first one that was involved with that one, and Johan Engelbrecht somehow also got involved here. Let's have a look. Johan Engelbrecht, pick a side, wrong side.
Yeah, as he plows into the side there of one of the other drivers out there, and then there's just cars rolling all over the place. I'll go back to that replay later on. Remember that they're only on lap 1 out of probably 9. So it's either 1 hour or 9 laps, according to Dr. Mike Verrier, whichever comes first. There's Gerald Free in that 99 car. He was also involved in that one.
He had no way to go.
Yeah, this is a replay of the chaos and carnage out there. We'll have a look. There's Wayne Camage. He was also involved in this schmozzle. That's the word of the day.
Here we go. The schmozzle. Did things go wrong? Yes. What went wrong? I was in a
total schmozzle.
Here we go. Let's go back to live. Let's go back to the front end of the field. The man that was picked to probably be the fastest out there, Luke Lucchesi, Mr. Luke Lucchesi, as he likes to put on his name tag. So Luke doing a pretty decent job as he leads them out there. In behind Luke Lucchesi, Jaco Forster. Jaco Forster is one of the people that do a fair amount of work helping in the background of making this lot work as well for us. Behind Jaco Forster, there comes Francois Hubert. So the the Masters duo that took on the youngsters and gave them a pretty hard time are the guys that find themselves first and third in this one so far. Jan Swimmers in there as well, and Jan Swimmers finds himself in 4th position, and in behind that is Peter Hubert.
Here comes Peter Hubert. Behind Peter Hubert is Willem Botha, and he's right there with him is Jaco Steyn. We're currently looking at the gaps between 1st and 27th at this point in time. This is a replay of Dr. Mike Verrier. He was also involved in that lot. And then there was just cars that got turned upside down there. That car landing right on top of Dr. Mike Verrier's 24/7 and Suzine Properties, a Porsche. And that was Graham Stephen. That was the number 1 car that was rolling all over the place. He ended up on top of the roof there of the dock, and then he was T-boned as well, was Graham Stephen and Gerald Free. This is a replay of Free, and he just hammers at Armco barrier. The guys are really battling out here on this racetrack. But Forster, replay here of Jaco Forster, busy working his way around, and he just loses the tail end, makes slight contact there with the Armco barrier. You must be careful now when he turns it around not to get T-boned by anybody. He does that pretty successful, does Jaco Forster. So a couple of replays here and a few such incidents that happened out on the circuit. Renier Hubert, he's been attacked there by Graham Stephen, and then there's once again contact, and this time it's Graham Stephen making contact there with Renier Hubert.
So having said all that, Frankie, let's go back to the front end of the field, and let's see exactly how that one looks at this stage of the fight. Luke Lucchesi, the man that leads out there pretty decently, and the next man in behind him is Francois Hubert, 5 seconds further back, and then Jan Swimmers closing up onto the back end there of Francois Hubert.
So now you can pick up all the fights out there. Yeah, Swimmers is only 0.8 of a second behind Francois Hubert, but Peter Hubert in that 4th position. He's got 2 of them right in there with him, namely Willem Botha and Jaco Steyn, and that's the 3 cars you see there on your screen. Botha and Steyn all over the back end there of Peter Hubert. as we ride on board the Gazoo Racing outfit of Jaco Steyn in his Porsche Cup car, sitting there right on the tail end of the Willem Botha setup. And there's a big Red Bull sticker that's on the side of that Botha. Look at those cars get airborne there, Gaza, and still Steyn all over the back of Botha. Only 4/10 of a second between Botha and Steyn, and 3/10 of a second between Botha and the man in P4, Pieter Joubert.
Going back one step further back, that is Swayze Joubert. He's 5 seconds further back. And, well, 5 seconds on this lap is not that big if you really think about it. There's Jaap Forster, and then through behind him comes Stephen McCarthy. And then a whole heap further back, another 6 seconds further back, there he comes. That's Atti Nagel. They're still on their very first lap. Behind Atti Nagel, the Boltman, Robbie Teens, Johannes van der Merwe coming through. Then Gerald Maget, and he's got Johan Engelbrecht right in there behind him.
Yeah, and that is that fight for Gerald's 13th position. And he's only 5/10 of a second ahead of Johan Engelbrecht that sits out there in P14. And already we've lost a couple of drivers. They are out of this one due to that opening lap incident. We've lost Mike Vera, Andre Steenkamp, Sandro Bakari, and Eugene Manouk. So 4 drivers out of this one. They've disconnected out of the system. Herman Lazarus is still in the pit area, hoping he will be able to make it back out on circuit again. But we ride aboard with Gerald Fourie briefly, but this is the fight we need to see. This is the one for Pieter Joubert's 4th position, and he's got Jaco Steyn and Willem Botha all over him. Luc Lucchesi has put up the best time. I just saw it disappear, the purple time disappear off the screen there, but it is a fastest lap for Luc Lucchesi.
I think there was a 6:43, and I think 6:40 is about because that anybody has been able to put up in any of the practices, pre-race practice, and now the qualifying as well. So 3 seconds off over 6 minutes. That's very, very little. That's like a very minor percentage as opposed to what you can do out there. So, Jaco Steyn having a pretty decent run so far. Willem Botha in there behind him, the Gazoo man doing a pretty decent job. There he comes through in the Red Bull colours for tonight. So that's a pretty close battle that's out. A little bit further back, Johan Engelbrecht, we were on him earlier on. There's Johan Engelbrecht. And he's still holding on to the back of Gerald Maget. Gerald Maget, Frankie, another success story, getting quicker and quicker in the second half of the season.
Yeah, 2.2 seconds between himself and JJ van der Merwe that sits out there in that 12th position. So yes, Gerald Maget not doing half bad at all, as Johan Engelbrecht is still in there. He's only 7/10 of a second behind Maget is Engelbrecht, and as I said earlier on, that's that fight for Gerald's 13th position. But the fight still rages on here for Joubert. That's Pieter's 4th position, defending heavily to try and keep like Jaco Steyn and Willem Botha. And on the other hand, look at the sharp end of the field, Gary. There's 9/10 of a second between Francois Joubert and Jan Sparmers. That's in that 3rd position. My goodness, what a drive so far for Jan Sparmers. He's only a second behind of Francois Joubert. We'll go to that one a little bit later on. We've got to focus on this fight for Joubert's 4th position. And Pieter has been hassled there heavily by Jaco Steyn, who's 3/10 of a second behind him, and Willem Botha, who's 5/10 of a second behind Steyn.
Realistically, 22.8 kilometers. No normal, sane, sensible human being can possibly imprint this track on their mind. I mean, how? How many corners is there in that 22.8 kilometers? 30, 40, 50 corners. It's just impossible. So you literally got to look at what you see in front of you, and you got to drive according to that.
Well, they actually do 24 hours of Nürburgring. They believe it or not, it's not only just the Le Mans 24 hours and the Spa 24. They actually do 24 hours of this racetrack as well, and that is hectic. 24 hours at the Green Hell, as it's also known as, and the scenery speaks for itself. It is probably one of the most difficult racetracks out there. This, Gary, was the home of Sabine Schmidt.
Yeah.
who used to be Miss Sabine Reck
Yeah.
when she raced the touring cars here in South Africa a couple of years ago. And she holds a lap record, I think it's for the ladies, in a Porsche around here. And I actually want to say the late Sabine, she passed away about a year or two ago, and she was only in her 50s. And so, yeah, rest in peace, Sabine. Sabine, you were one of the greatest out there, and she mastered this racetrack.
Wow, okay, I've also learned something now. My mobile college of knowledge that joins me at most circuits Saturday of the year. I wasn't aware that Sabrina, as most people knew her in the latter years, yeah, she was iconic in terms of lady races worldwide and international motorsport as such. As we stay on board with Willem Bertha. You see some of those corners like that, Frankie, if you get onto that inside line, there's two different forms of banking. And if you get it in the groove, you can really hammer it through there a lot quicker. But if you go over the top of that bridge, well, you're kind of heading straight towards the scene of the accident. And with a Porsche GT3 992 Cup car, with all the weight at the back, you're probably heading straight towards the scene of the accident, going backwards.
So we're right aboard here with Willem Bertha. We have a look at that front right-hand side, the suspension of that Porsche GT Cup car there of Bertha. And he's only 0.2 of a second behind Jaco Steyn. Now we're on board with Bertha. He's crowding the back end there of that Jaco Steyn Porsche, who was now losing a little bit of ground there to Peter Hubert, but not much. And they're going to pick up a back marker. No, it won't be a back marker. It will be Francois Hubert. I think they're not too far behind him. Well, it's 1.8 seconds between Peter and Francois. So the gap is closing between the two Hubert. Yeah, there you see. So Peter Hubert is not far behind Francois. That's there in that third position, and he's all over the back of Jan Spalmers. Is Francois Hubert.
The levels of concentration has got to be seamless than something else doing this kind of thing. Look how the cars are bouncing around, and knowing iRacing, this is a very, very realistic. Can you save that one and keep it out of the barrier on the other side? Oh, that's a biggie. That's a biggie. Let's see how that steering looks when he gets going. It looks like he might have got away with it. Is it all okay? Let's see when he gets into the straight. That steering wheel is straight. Yep, so far so good. It looks like he gets away with that one. So Willem Bertha trying to hold on there as best as what he possibly could. See, Davy Joubert has had it.
Yeah, Davy Hubert coming down towards us now. This is a replay of the 8 car sponsored by KFC.
Where he was, there was track. Where he went to, there was nothing.
And there's a no entry sign, so you can't go in there, Davy.
So that's not an option.
No. Just flick that the KFC sponsored Porsche Cup car around and keep on going. But Willem Bertha is now 6 seconds behind Jaco Steyn. So that little issue has cost Willem Bertha dearly. And not exactly what he wants. As a matter of fact, Willem Bertha is all over the back of Jaco Forster. And Willem Bertha sitting out there in that 7th position. He is right in there behind Forster. This is heading towards the end of the lap. And it is Bertha that takes that position away there from Forster. But he's going to fight back. He is going to fight back going into turn number 1. They must be careful not to make contact, and that's exactly what happened. I could see it coming. And Bertha still there in that 7th position, but is now 5.5 seconds behind Jaco Forster.
Let's have a look at exactly how that one came across from the outside. Hard on the brakes, turn it in, leave enough space for one another. Very close. There's not much space there. They try to leave space for one another. Bertha coming from Toyota Zoo team for the Bertha, and he gets that one back together. Let's go back to live and let's go to the top end of the field.
Right, that's Luke Lucchesi that sits out there in P1. He's going to catch and put a lap on Herman Lazarus, who is now 2 minutes 14 seconds behind Pienaar. Is Lazarus. There you see that, and he's going to be caught pretty soon by Lucchesi. There's still 3 minutes 20 to go before he catches him. Francois Hubert sits there in that second position, and my word, is almost 11 seconds behind Luc Lucchesi. But look at this fight. Jan Sparmers, Peter Hubert, Jaco Steyn. I said that Peter was closing on to the back of Sparmers, and Francois Hubert was catching them all as well. And Francois Hubert sits in that second position, Sparmers in third, Peter sits there in fourth, Jaco Steyn sits there in that fifth position. So this little train has caught up to each other, and now it is a fight out there for Francois' second position, because Jan is only 5/10 of a second behind Francois Hubert.
I think they're going to stay pretty much in the order that they are, Frank. And the reason why I tell you that is Jan.
Not if Jaco Steyn does that.
No, that's going to take him out of it. But then again, he's got a fair gap to the car behind him, which is Jaco Forster, but obviously Jaco Forster will be catching up. So trying to hold onto that train is all fine and well. Let's go have a look at one car further forward. Peter Hubert, well, he's also battling now to hold onto the back of that two-car train up front. So Jan Sparmers starting to apply the pressure there on the second place man, Francois Hubert. Now, we know from history, Francois Hubert and Luc Lucchesi are the two quickest of the Masters in general. The two of them, in a 6 hour, they outrun most everybody and everything in terms of the Masters. The two of them up front, which means that Jan Sparmers actually doing a brilliant job. He's holding on to the best of the best. He's right there, and then also Peter Hubert as well.
Well, clearly the car track combination suits Jan Sparmers. He's obviously enjoying it thoroughly out there in that 27 Porsche, sitting there in third position, 6/10 of a second behind second place man Francois Hubert. And those are the two cars you see there inboard from Jan Sparmers' car, looking up to the back end there, and the wing of the Porsche GT Cup car of Francois Hubert in that second position. Well, Peter Hubert and Jaco Steyn and Forster, they were all over each other about I can't say lap ago, about a half a lap ago. Remember, this is 22.8, nearly 23 Ks a lap, and the gaps are beginning to open up between those guys now. So there's only a few fights out there on the circuit. The one you're seeing there now between Francois Hubert and Jan Sparmers, and then there's one down for P7 with Suisse Hubert falling all over the back end there of Willem Botha. Only a second between Willem Botha and Suisse Hubert, and there is Botha, and there is Suisse, the Liqui Moly car, working his way through the picture. And then there's one all the way down at the tail end of the field between Graham Stephen and Ian Riddle. And there's, I think that's probably Graham Stephen is going to be pulling away there from Ian Riddle, but not making it easy for him. And then there's one in mid-back, and that is Stephen McCarthy and Atti Nagel, and they are right there with each other, Stephen McCarthy and Atti Nagel, and they are fighting out there for Stephen's 9th position.
Interesting stuff if you look at those gaps. Well, that's the interval. Let's look at the gaps at this stage of the fight from the front end of the field. And there you can see exactly, we're looking at 2 minutes 7 for the likes of James Stephen, and 3 minutes 42 for Herman Lazarus. So remember, they were involved in that earlier incident, and that obviously makes up a large percentage of that time. Let's have a look at the gains and losses. Luke starts at the front and stays there.
I was looking a bit further down, Gary. I think till about Gerald Mouget, there's about 10-12 cars that's within a minute of each other. The gains and losses, the biggest, the loser there, other than those that are out, is Gerald Fourie, that sits down in that 13th position. He's lost 11 positions. And then there's a couple of guys that's gone up. Gerald Mouget has gone up 6. David Hubert has gone up 8. Renier Hubert and Wayne Camage have gone up 6 positions as well. So yeah, there's a couple of ups and downs, but the biggest loser so far, other than the drivers that are out, is the man in that 13th position, namely Gerald Fourie, that's gone down 11 positions.
Graham Stephen is a man that doesn't often get involved in offset incidents whatsoever, but I think he's just decided for this one, he's just going to put the hammer down and keep the going as fast as he possibly can, just for once, just have a little bit of fun out there. And that is what happened to Graham Stephen. Jaco Forster has also recently now been off the circuit. And yeah, you see, that's that camber that I was talking about, where the inside of the corner has got a lot of camber, and then the outside of the corner, turn that one around as the cars come through, and Kawasaki is just ticking away. He's now got to try and look out that side window and try and determine from there what does he do with that one. And Jaco Forster comes eventually back on the track, and then he says, no, there's too much damage on this car, I cannot see the gears, and he takes it back to the pits. So Jan Spammer is the man of the moment, holding on to the two super masters, Luke Kizzy and Francois Leclerc.
Yeah, there's 12 seconds between Luke and Francois, and then only 8/10 of a second between Francois Hubert and Jan Spamers. And then there's a fight for Gerald Foury's 11th position. He's got the JJ van der Merwe behind him. Van der Merwe is 1.2 seconds behind Foury. As a matter of fact, that's going to grow as Gerald Foury is going to pull away there from him. And then there's one a bit further down between Willem Pinaar and Dawie Hubert, and they are side by side. Pinaar's in that Castrol outfit, and then the other one is Dawie Hubert in that the KFC sponsored car that's going down that long straight, I think it is. As we have a look at Pinaar that's just ahead of Dawie Hubert. As a matter of fact, Willem Pinaar is pulling the pin on him, and he's getting further away. 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 seconds. And he's made a mistake. I thought he made a mistake. He hasn't. Dawie Hubert is in pit lane.
Okay, now to the best of my knowledge, one tank is around about 5 laps. Odds are you'll find that there's I'll find a spot. Is it a drive-through penalty?
A drive-through, yes.
A drive-through. Now, how's that for luck from a production point of view? Do you happen to be in the right place at the right time and pick up something like that?
Well, Johan Engelbrecht is definitely pitting, Gary. You can see his time ticking away on the board, and so is Graham Stephen.
Look, he's gone in there in a very awkward position. He gets it going again. So, yes, something completely different for everybody, us included. NORDSCHLIEFE, for those of you that joined us late, around about 7 minutes a lap, probably around about 8 to 9 laps will be done by the average driver, and these are not average drivers by the time we get to the end of this race. And it's pretty much you in the track, because most of the guys are out in the open like that. So having a quick run through from the top 4 laps in, probably next time around most everybody is going to come in for fuel. The way that it was worked out was that one tank would give you probably around about 5 laps, and you can't go for another 6 minutes if the tank is just about empty. It ain't going to happen. So Luke Easy leads them out. 13 seconds back is Francois Hubert, right behind him, and not being dropped is Jan Spamers. As they work their way down towards the next corner, look who comes into sight. That is Peter Hubert. And Jaco Steyn has not been dropped either. Well done, Jaco Steyn. He's right in there, getting a little bit away now from Willem Botha, and everybody is up to. I've never seen that before. From 2nd up to 7th position, everybody up exactly 2 places. Sway Hubert right in there as well, where it counts. Finds himself within a second, and you're that close to being in front of you. When it comes to the pit stops, you can maybe just get it in and out just a smidgen quicker and jump the person like that. Or you can do what he's doing and try and too much gas, pass him on the circuit, and the pressure is counting as he manages to walk away with that one. Willem Botha on the ragged edge.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to go on the ragged edge, because he has got the Lipke Molly car of Sway Hubert only a 1/10 of a second in there behind him. So what do you do? I wouldn't even worry about looking in the rearview mirrors if I was Willem. Sway is getting it slightly wrong, and now he's 1.1 seconds behind Willem Botha. Nothing too serious though. Atti Nagel is there in a pretty lonely 8th position. Stephen McCarthy in P9 is not lonely, because he's got Robbie Teens and Gerald Foury for company. Teens is in the middle of that lot, and Gerald Foury is behind him, and they're both chasing down the 9th position man. That is Steve McCarthy. So McCarthy's got the two of them racked and stacked in there behind him. Gerald Free looks up on the inside there. Robbie Teens rubbing is racing, but that's going to have to be taken very, very easily, because you get it all wrong. This left-handed bank corner, one of the most famous corners here at the Nürburgring, is not easy at all. As a matter of fact, McCarthy is now 1.1 seconds ahead of Robbie Teens. So Steve is getting away from Robbie Teens because Robbie is doing some defensive driving here to keep Gerald Fourie behind him, and there's only 0.2 of a second between Teens and Gerald Fourie.
I personally think this is very, very energy sapping, because there's just no time to relax. You are fighting that steering wheel all the time. You don't know what's going to come up next, and just got to have your eyes glued to the track and see if you can make up that little bit here, there, and everywhere, coming very close to the back of Robbie Teens. But that just shows you how Gerald Fourie actually isn't run that close without making contact, and they are now getting onto the tail end of Steve McCarthy once again. So Steve McCarthy not getting away, Stephen and Robbie inside of the top 10. Gerald Fourie holding on getting there as well. Remember, straight after this, they'll be going into the pits.
Yeah, remember that McCarthy got slightly away there from Robbie Teens and from Gerald Fourie, but they both of them, as Gazza was saying, right all over 9th place man Steve McCarthy once again. This is the nose cam on the Gerald Fourie Porsche, a 1/10 of a second between himself and Teens, and that's what a 1/10 of a second looks like between Gerald Fourie and the man ahead of him, Robbie Teens. You can see there's nothing in a 1/10 of a second, and that's looking at the front left-hand side suspension of the 99 car of Gerald Fourie, working slightly over time there. Now he's going to have a run-up on the outside there of Robbie Teens, and he blitz around him on the outside, and Fourie moves up there ahead of Teens.
Brilliant stuff. I tell you what, that was a hard run to get to there, and I must say Robbie Teens did not make it easy for him whatsoever. He played it all the way into the pit lane. I see that some of the guys is in. There is Francois Hubert, he's in. Peter Hubert is in as well, and Luc Lucchesi has gone straight through. So once again, Luke says, hold on a second, let me do the mathematics correctly. I think I can eke another lap out of this, and he goes just one lap further than everybody else. Francois Hubert ready to come out of the pits, and there we see him. There he comes out of the pits, and then the next one that's going to come out there will be Peter Hubert. There he is. So I think it's time we start having a look at who's been doing what in terms of pit stops, because that's going to give us a pretty good idea who's got to go back in. So the leading car out on circuit that has been into pits is Francois Hubert and Peter Hubert, but Luc Lucchesi is the leading man out on circuit, and I have little to no doubt, given the data that is available to hand for this race, that Luc Lucchesi, Jens Spammers, Jaco Steyn, Willem Botha and Swayze Hubert is going to be forced to come in at the end of lap number 5.
Yeah, but Nagel, Fourie and McCarthy, they were in the pits. The three of them are busy making their way back out onto the circuit again. Ati Nagel, Gerald Fourie, and then behind him will be Steve McCarthy.
So he's just been dusted in the pits by 2 places.
Yeah, he has lost 2 places in the pits, yes, in the Suzine Property and SS Racing Porsche, as Gerald Mouget, the Frenchman, makes his way into the pit area. So at the leaderboard, if you look at the top, Gary, Luc Lucchesi, Jan Spammers, Jaco Steyn, Willem Botha and Swayze Hubert, those 5 have not made pit stops yet. So in your top 7, only the 2 Huberts out of the 3 have made pit stops. That's Francois and Peter. Swayze has not, Willem has not, Jaco Steyn hasn't, Jan Spammers hasn't, and your race leader, Luc Lucchesi, has also not made a pit stop yet, as Gerald Mouget works his way back out onto the circuit.
Lampina also says enough is enough. We've got front window clean, we've got some new shoes on underneath, and off we go, and Gerald Fourie is on the move. Gerald Fourie wants Ati Nagel.
Yeah, that 99 cars all over the back of the 78 of Atinagel is a Gerald Fourie. As a matter of fact, it's only a tenth of a second between Fourie and Nagel that you see just ahead of him is right on his back wing there is a Gerald Fourie. Atinagel fighting to hang on to that position. Where do you go? Where do you look? Where do you defend? If you look around you too much, you make a mistake because this circuit does what it wants to in front of you. It is probably one of the most difficult racetracks in the world to race on. Is the one that you are seeing at home right now, with Fourie now 2/10 of a second behind Nagel, and Nagel is the last man that rounds off the top 10.
He's been trying for a long time to get into the top 10. It just hasn't worked out for him. And I mean, he's one of the guys that was involved with that initial incident that there was. And oopsie, that could be where the difference comes in. And there he goes. And Gerald Fourie passes Atinagel. So, of the people that have made more than one pit stop, the leading man is in fact Gerald Fourie. So he must have got in and out pretty quickly. We see out of the race Ian Riddle, Jacob Forster, Graham Steele, he was just involved in so many incidents. Mike Verrier now out as well, joining the originals that was Andre Steenkamp, Sandy Bukari, and Eugene.
Yeah, Mike, Andre, Sandra, and Eugene, I think they just decided in the lap or two no more. As a matter of fact, Eugene, Sandra, and Andre, they all went out in that first lap incident, which only lasted about 3-4 corners, if that much, before chaos hit. Now, I'm going to has a guess here that those first 5 cars that has not pitted yet is probably going to have to come in at the end of lap number 5 and do a pit stop, which will take them to the checkered flag. I cannot possibly see that Luke, Jan, Jaco, Willem, and Swiss is going to make another lap around here. So my guess is at the end of lap number 5, you will see the first 5 make their way into pit lane.
Now, if you have a look at that track, Mac, you can see the number 1 car that indicates the lead car through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to around about 12th position. They're all pretty much very close to one another. And then you can see the stragglers further back where we've got this 12, 31, and 6-second gaps. So apart from Luke, that's just dusting away at the front. And the prediction was that he was going to be able to do that. He's broken away from Spammers and Buerta and Sway Chibet, and you can see it there on the track. Now, Frankie, I'm not too sure if we look at that track, how far are we from the lane?
Well, you see Luke Lucchese make his way through that left-hander, and then he will go into a right-hander, and then here comes that long straight. Now, that indicates that he is heading towards the end of the lap. There he starts that long run, which I'm guessing is more than 1 kilometer long. Under the Audi Sport Bridge goes race leader Luke Lucchese for Pantera Racing. So, yeah, 33 minutes done. This is heading towards the end of the lap. He will start the final sector shortly as he still runs it down this long straight. I said more than 1 kilometer. It's definitely more than 1 kilometer long, that's for sure. And now he's heading
using all the gears. He's only in 6th gear. He's an 8-speed box.
Yeah, well, he's heading towards the end of the lap now. So we'll have a look and see if he's going to make his way into the pit. Surely he must hit pit lane, and he does. And if he pits, I promise you, Jan, Jaco, Willem, and Swiss is going to have to do exactly the same as they run down that long straight. And surely Sparmer, Stein, Buerta, and Swiss Hubert must also pit now.
This is going to be interesting. This is
Yep,
where it's all
Sparmers
going
is
to
in.
come. Sparmers is in. Here comes the next man, Jaco Stein, 9 seconds further back. Surely he has to go for juice as well.
Yes.
He's in. Willem Buerta is the next man that's coming through in the Red Bull car. He's got Swiss Hubert right in there behind him. After 27 kilometers, you wonder if you're going to find that gate, and in comes Swiss Hubert. So, where is Francois Hubert? There comes Francois Hubert. Everybody else is in the pits. There's the entrance to the pits, and now it goes about, can Luke Lucchese get out on circuit before him? Where is Luke Lucchese? There's Luke Lucchese coming out of the pits, and they are just as close as, no, they were a lot closer, in fact. So Francois Hubert has actually done a pretty decent job out there. It's Jens Spanners that's in that second position with the Francois Hubert in there behind. So Luke Lucchese up dust disappear, holds on to that 21-second gap. Nothing much between Swammers and Francois Hubert, although with the pit stop, it's now a situation where Swammers finds himself ahead of Francois Hubert. Can Francois now make a plan to regain that position on circuit? Because with 35 minutes done, there isn't another pit stop. The only way Francois Hubert is going to recover that second position is by passing Jan Swammers one way or another.
Well, he's going to have to do it the hard way, and that's on the racetrack. I see that JJ van der Merwe is in the pits, and Robbie Teens is making his way out onto the track once again. That's a bit further down in that mid-pack. But yes, Jan Sparmers, I think Francois Hubert is going to nail him. There's only 0.2 of a second between Jan and Francois at this point in time. And Jan Sparmers is putting up a very, very, very brave fight with the 36 minutes done on the clock. But I think that Francois Hubert has got his number, and that's only a matter of when we will see Francois move up a position. Not to Willie, it's a matter of when Willie.
Also, having said that, Jan Sparmers is not a man that's known to get tackled whatsoever. He doesn't make mistakes very easy. We've seen the longer races where he's very consistent, can afford to handle pressure without too much problems whatsoever. Keeping in mind that we're 6 laps down, probably got another 3 laps to go, times 22.8 kilometers, another 60, 65, 70 kilometers of racing with 111 turns between them as he touches the grass. And the Francois Hubert, does he just drop back a little bit too there so he's got a clean view in front of him to be able to race the line properly, or is Jens Sparmers turning the wing up and actually starting to get away?
Well, if I was Francois Hubert, is now just over a second behind Jan Sparmers. I think he's just eased off slightly to give himself some breathing room and not crowd the back end of the Sparmers Porsche. Remember, if Sparmers gets it wrong under pressure, then Francois will just clatter into him, and that's not exactly what he wants, although I don't believe that Jan's going to make any sort of silly mistake at all.
It's not good to commentators.
But I think if I was Francois, I'll just crawl up a little bit closer and then wait for that super long straight and then get the slipstream on him.
That's a possibility.
And then dive out. But he's going to have to get it under a second between himself and Jan, which he has now done, and keep it there to be able to make that move as Wayne Camage has made his pit stop and works out onto the circuit again, rejoining in that 19th position.
You know, frankly, I think you might be spot on with that. If you really think about it, with the gap that there is there, to try and make the passing maneuvers very, very difficult. So why everything in the line where if you can just drop back just a little bit like that, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, you can see the track in front of you, well, as much as you possibly can with that top block part of you. And then you're close enough that when you get to the long straight, you can go for a clean pass.
Yep.
I think that you might be on the button, and that is exactly what Francois Hubert is intending to do. From the top down.
You see, Gary, before you go there, if you sit on the back wing of another guy, this circuit is very twisty, and you don't know what's in front of the driver view right on his exhaust pipe. So you drop off a bit, get a clear vision, and then if you can, have a go on that long straight. But that's just my guess. From the top down, Luke Lucchese sits out there in a P1, comfortably ahead of Jan Sparmers in that second position, 23 seconds, they leave 24 behind them. But as we were talking early on, Jan is not in a favorable position because he has got the Francois Hubert in that third position, just under a second behind him there. Then just over 6 seconds behind the Francois Hubert is a fellow family member, and that is a Peter Hubert, and he's 6.7 seconds behind him. Then Jaco Steyn in P5, 4.6 behind Peter Hubert, and Swysh Hubert in P6, nearly 10 seconds behind Jaco Steyn. Willem Botha sits out there in P7, 2.5 seconds behind Swysh Hubert, and then Gerald Fourie is there in that 8th position, and he's nearly 18 seconds behind Willem Botha. Then in P9, we've got Atinagel, and he's nearly 12 seconds behind Gerald Fourie. Is Atinagel, and rounding off the top 10 is Robbie Teens, and he's 4.5 seconds behind Atinagel. That is your top 10, but that fight still raging on there for that second position between Jan Spalmers and Francois Hubert. Right, just out the top 10 is Stephen McCarthy, and he's only 2.4 seconds behind Robbie Teens. And then the top dozen is JJ van der Merwe, nearly 19 seconds behind Stephen McCarthy. And then the gaps get big, because Peter van der Spy is nearly 25 seconds behind van der Merwe. Pinard is nearly 29 seconds behind van der Spy. And then in that 15th position, Gerald Mouget is 5.5 seconds behind Willem Pinard. And then Dawie Hubert, nearly 17 seconds behind Gerald Mouget. Then in 18th position, 43.5 seconds behind Dawie Hubert is Reinier Hubert. And then in that 18th position, 6 seconds behind Reinier Hubert is Wayne Camage. Then Johan Engelbrecht is 1 minute and 18 seconds behind Wayne Camage, but he's got a fight on his hands, because only 6/10 of a second behind Engelbrecht in P20 is a cheaper cars.co.za man, and that is Herman Lazarus. Right, back to that fight for that second and third position, Gary, between Jan Spalmers, 6/10 of a second ahead of Francois Hubert.
Is this the closing up closer than what was the safe 1 second distance to be within striking range when they hit that long straight? I think you could be right.
Well, we'll have a look and see. I'm not too sure exactly where they are around this track. There's 40 plus corners around this circuit. So it's not going to be that easy to figure out offhand where they are. However, Francois Hubert in that just race outfit sits there in that third position. A little bit further down the leaderboard, there's a fight that's just all of a sudden evolved, and that's the one between Swiss Hubert and Willem Botha. And there's only 7/10 of a second between the two of them, and that's the two cars you see there on your screen. Swiss Hubert in that 6th position, been hassled there by the man in P7, namely Willem Botha.
Closing. Francois Hubert in his normal black and white colors. Whatever diagram scheme coloration he's got, 9 out of 10 times it's based on black and white. That's the color scheme that he likes. He didn't manage to get it right last time that they were on that long straight. Maybe it's actually determined. Hold on a second. With 42 minutes to go, there's probably another 2 laps that they will be able to get through out there, depending on Luc Petesi reading them all in and getting into a situation where he completes 1 lap less than what they are expecting, because he's such a good and there's 1 less chance. Maybe Francois Hubert now sitting exactly where he is, saying, let's wait. I've seen I can do it. I know I can do it. Let's pressurize him. Maybe he goes off, although he's not a chance of going off. And then also on the last time they go up that long straight coming up towards the line, that's his best opportunity, as opposed to pulling the pin, getting past now, and then Jan Spalmers does the exact same as what he's planning to do, and does that to him on the last lap. He's not coming back on there.
Well, we're going to have to look and see on that track map exactly where these two drivers are on the circuit. How far are they from that long straight? Trying to find them right on the map.
1, 2, 3, 4, the red, right at the top of the track map.
Yeah.
Where they are, and the man that we are on with Swiss Hubert, that's the set with the green or blue line around it. That's how far behind they are. And there you can visually see 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th in that little area, and then driving into Sunset, number 1 at the front, and that is a look.
As a matter of fact, if you have a look at that, there you see the 3rd place man coming through now. That is Francois Hubert. You can hardly see him and Spalmers. The two of them, those 2 dots, are basically just on top of each other. That's 2nd and 3rd, with Peter 6.9 seconds behind him. Now let's have a look and see. They're both very, very far from this long straight. They're basically now at the top end, or the furthest end, I should say, of the racetrack is Jan and Francois. And still, Sway Schubert trying to get closer to Willem Botha. He was very close to him at one stage of the game. He's now 2 seconds behind him. Willem still in P6 and Sway still there in that 7th position. No other fight really on the circuit. Renier Hubert is in pit lane, and so was Ian Riddle for that matter. So there's only really one battle out there, and that's the one for that 2nd position between Sparmers and Hubert. 5/10 of a second between the two of them, and Sparmers in turn is 28 seconds behind the man Luke Lucchesi that is just cruising around this Nürburgring.
Well, frankly, if you look at the gap between Gerald Ferry that was sitting in that 11th position for extended period of time, trying to break into the top 10, gets himself into 8th, and you see, oh geez, 14 seconds that he's behind Sway Schubert. But look at the last lap time, 6:47 as opposed to 7:16. Not impossible for Gerald Ferry to make up another position.
But the two quickest guys out there, Swiss and Peter, 6:48 and 6:50. Francois being the quickest one out there between himself and Peter Hubert. And they're the only two drivers that the last lap was doing high 6 minutes. Everybody else was in the 7s. Even Luke Lucchesi has lifted off slightly. He done a 7:09 the last lap. So yeah,
fastest laps, and there you can see a 6:44 as opposed to a 7:09. So that's 9 plus 16 gives you about 25 seconds slower on this lap. But then again, I suppose Luke Lucchesi is saying that whether I win by half a minute or I win by 3 minutes, a win is a win. Maybe I must just back off a touch, play a whole heap safer, and be in there when it counts.
well, let's have a look and see. We're having a look at Swayze. He's getting further behind Willem Botha. He's nearly 3 seconds behind Willem Botha. Is that man there? We need to have a look at this fight between Jan and Francois, because that one's not done yet. And now Swayze is all of a sudden right on the back of Willem. I just said a few seconds ago that Botha's getting away underneath him, and all of a sudden Swayze just bang right in there again on the case of Willem Botha. So I don't know, maybe Yaku just ran it slightly on the grass, and that's just brought Willem right there with. As a matter of fact, Willem Botha, Gary, he's 1.5 seconds ahead there of Sway Schubert.
Oh. How do you concentrate for so long on this kind of circuit? And he pulls it back together. Lovely there. And Sway Schubert finds himself now dropping a little bit further back. 6:43. Look easy. Okay.
Well, not holding back at all is Luke Lucchesi for Pantera Racing. He's now 30 seconds behind Jan Sparmers, and this is the fight that I want to see. This is the one between Sparmers and Francois Hubert. 4/10 of a second between the two of them. We are on lap number 8. So an hour is done. An hour is done. So they will then do 9 laps. Remember that? No, 48. They will do an hour. They will do an hour. Whichever comes first, Mike Jonas said. So it's either 9 laps or an hour. So the checkered flag could come out now for Luke Lucchesi.
Interesting stuff. We all thought it was going to go to the hour before it gets to the 9 laps, but thanks to Luke Lucchesi, sparing the boys another couple of minutes of mayhem out there. So Francois Hubert is now going in the back of his mind doing the mathematics and say, does Luke make it to the line once he goes to the next time he comes across the line, that's it. So let's see what them do. Let's have a look at the track map and where is Luke Lucchesi right now. Let's get that one up. There's Luke Lucchesi. So he is still about 3/4 of a lap before he gets to the end of the lap number 9. Or is that the end of lap number 8? You then have to do another lap after that. Not too sure, because this is lap 8 that he's on now. So it's possible that, as you say, the check flag will come out next time he comes across the line.
As I believe it, it's either an hour or 9 laps, whichever. The hour mark came up before the 9 laps. So my common sense tells me that this will be the flag lap for Luke Lucchesi as Willem Pina sticks the Castrol car heavily there into the Armco barrier. And that's a nose and a tail job there for the Porsche of Willem Pina.
I think we must have a look at the footage on that one, and we can see if the car is still back in straight. Let's go back to Willem Pina. Is the steering swing? Looks like got away with it.
Very lucky boy.
Let's see once he gets out into a straight line.
Yeah, he's fine.
Well, the front end's okay after having a heavy knock on the back, but it all seems to have worked out quite fine for him. So Willem Pina having that one. Robbie Teens eventually made a pass on Atti Nagel. That's why Atti went wide, lost the drive, had to just slightly offload the gas, and Robbie Teens makes up that position. And well, I don't know how long it's going to stay like that, because Robbie's going to have to really haul to be able to stay there, because there's nothing much between the two of them.
Well, yeah, interesting stuff out there. Here comes Robbie Teens. Behind him is Atti Nagel. 4/10 of a second between Teens and Nagel, fighting it out there for that 9th position. Gary was saying earlier on between Pina's in pit lane. Pina is in pit lane, and Davy Hubert has taken that position away from Pina, and I think this might just be a drive-through penalty. It is. He's in and out. That's a drive-through penalty there for the Castrol car of Willem Pina.
I thought that might have been for damage that he picked up, but obviously that off track then just chased his penalty points a little bit too far, and that is what made the difference that he had to then eventually do that drive-through. So some brilliant lap times that have been put in here by a lot of the guys. Let's have a look at those off tracks. What a brilliant drive by the way.
Yeah, Pina's done 16. We were told earlier on, if you do more than 15, you will get a drive-through, and that was certainly a drive-through there for Willem Pina. Davy Hubert has done 17, Renier Hubert 18, Wayne Cammy just done 26 of them. But look at the guys up front, Gary. Only one for Luke Lucchesi, Jan Spalmers, and Francois Hubert. Can you believe it? Hardly any errors by the drivers that are certainly destined for the podium in this one.
It's all over. Only after that flag comes out, anything can happen. You see people like Gerald Fourie, utterly brilliant, and Gerald Fourie 1.5 off the back of Swayze Hubert. He might still be able to make up another position.
Yeah, Gerald Fourie 1.4 seconds behind Swayze Hubert. Swayze in P8, Gerald in P9. But there is a couple of fights beginning to evolve.
That is just made the pass.
Yep, that's the one that you were talking about, and that's the overtaking maneuver there. And through goes Gerald Fourie and moves up into that next position. So Gerald Fourie now in P7, Swayze down in P8, and as a matter of fact, behind Swayze Hubert, there's 36 seconds between himself and Robbie Teens. But Robbie Teens and Atti Nagel are still going one-on-one there for that 9th position as we look at the Liqui Moly car. But back to the man up front, Luke Lucchesi. Now, Luke is heading towards the end of the lap. Luke is heading towards the end of the lap. He'll have this sweeping right-hander. He's flat on the gas right now. And there he goes, down that long straight. Now, yeah, you can literally just move your eyes around in the sockets for a short while, because you got this lovely long straight, and you can just wiggle the shoulders slightly. It gives you a bit of a breather. And we'll have a look and see now. No, as a matter of fact, Gary, yeah, I was wrong. Let's say an hour or 9 laps. The hour's not done yet. We've got 5 minutes to go before the hour. I do apologize. I looked incorrectly. So, if it's an hour or 9 laps, it means then that Luke Lucchesi, now I've got it right, will have to then do 1 more lap. Yes, that line of 9, there the white flag comes out. So definitely One more lap to go for Luke Lucchesi.
All right, let's have a look a little bit further down the field. So Luke Lucchesi started in P1 pole position, and he's led it all the way through. 2 positions up off 4th position on the grid. Francois Joubert, 35 seconds behind Luke Lucchesi, but that's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you're on the same lap as Luke Lucchesi, you are blindingly quick. Just 1 and a little bit behind that, Jens Spanners. Is that one going to play itself out in the last lap on that long straight as predicted by the man from Killarney International Raceway, Frankie Yennis, the voice of West Motorsport? I think it's going to play itself out in that long straight if Jens Spanners can be within fighting distance, and 1.3 is too far back. He's got to be closer, but it's a long time until then. So probably find you'll play it safe. You'll see towards the end of the lap before they come into that long straight. If he can, he will close up at that point. That's the fight we must watch.
Yeah, look, remember Jan was in that 2nd place and Francois was out there in 3rd, and we were saying, where will Francois make the move? Well, he made the move somewhere because he's gone up to 2nd. Jan's dropped down into 3rd, and the gap is getting bigger between the two of them. Johan Engelbrecht, bang, into the tire wall goes Engelbrecht in that 25 car, and not exactly what he wants. Now on the grass again, losing it out there, losing a dash of concentration. And one can understand it is very, very difficult to concentrate on this racetrack. And yeah, Francois is now 1.5 seconds ahead of Jan Spanners. Jan is 6 seconds ahead of Peter Joubert. So if I was Jan, it's the last lap. Don't stress too much, Jan. This will be your first time ever on a podium. Don't worry about Luke and Francois. These 2 drivers on a class of their own. In the 6 hour, they're even teammates. So you would expect them to come 1st and 2nd, keeping in mind that there's no Johan Fourie out there in this one. But yeah, either way, I think it would have been a daunting task for anybody to beat the combination of Luke Lucchesi and Francois Joubert.
Yep, and there's been a bit of an altercation. Willem Pienaar in the Castrol car. Let's see what happens to Willem. Climbs the curbstone, gets on the gas a little bit too loud, sticks it. Oh, that spins around heavily, takes the bonnet off. Now, where does Stephen McCarthy come into this one? Because I see Stephen McCarthy's had an incident as well. So it must be 2 separate incidents because no Stephen McCarthy in that one. And let's see what happens to Stephen McCarthy. He's raced the car for rear-wheel drives before, so it's something to see. A little bit suddenly, a corner arrives in front of him, and he just nibbles the barrier a little bit with that. Denis Roubaix found himself going off the circuit as well. I think that's the same corner where Johan Engelbrecht went off. It looked very, very similar. Well, he covered that very, very neatly and got it back onto the circuit once again. So we are on the very last lap for Luke Lucchesi, and almost 40 seconds he's taken out of everybody else. You can see the red number 1 just in that little dip on the track map on the right hand top corner. That number 1 indicates where Luke Lucchesi is.
Hammering the barrier there. Sorry, Gary. That is Jacques Stein in that 5th position. He nailed that barrier rather heavily. And he's still motoring his way around here, but there was semi-decent contact with the Armco there for him. This is a replay at the Mercury car of Wayne Camage as a tail step out of him. Yes, does he save it? Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Luckily
just scratch
there
the flicker
for
unit.
Wayne. Yeah, that'll buff out that one.
No, nothing that won't buff out. And as we said, Jacques Stein having a bit of a wild ride at that point there. You can see where he hammers the barrier. Is that what you call semi-decent? That's when you keep the flicker away from the barrier, but you scratch the rest of the side of the car. That's semi-decent.
Well, that's semi-decent compared to the shunts that we've actually seen some of the guys have out here. So, Luke Lucchesi, always a long way from home, is Luke Lucchesi at the replay, and him and Robbie Teens almost making contact there at Nagel, and the Teens bolt car of Robbie Teens.
Looks like Nagel is now going to win out on that one. Engelbrecht is running it a little bit too hard. What a lovely save. Well, that's a man that knows how to drive Porsches, that's for sure. So where do we find Luke Lucchesi? There you see the red number 1 on the right-hand top corner, and that is the lead car, other position with the green around it, and he's not that far from that front straight. So, where does that leave Francois Hubert and Jens Mamers?
No, Francois Hubert is nearly 41 seconds behind Luc Lucchesi. He is in that second place, but he's only 1.3 seconds ahead of Jan Sparmers. But I don't believe that Jan's going to do anything silly at this point in time. It'll be his very first podium ever, and he thoroughly deserves it at this racetrack, the hardest racetrack we have ever done in iRacing, and that you can find in real-time racing as well. And to get a first ever podium on this, that tells me a hell of a lot about what Jan Sparmers can do, that's for sure.
There is no doubt about it. That's basically just riding from the seat of your pants. And the Attinagel Robbie Team session hasn't come to an end yet. They are still on the go. But let's get back to the front end. Oh, Jan Sparmers has crashed. Jan Sparmers has crashed.
You've got to be kidding me. Jan Sparmers sitting there in that third position.
Just comes in loud.
It's not the end of the world for Jan.
No damage.
No damage. If you can just get it going again. There comes Peter Hubert. He might have lost, he's lost that position to Peter Hubert. He's turning around in circles. There goes Jaco Steyn as well. I think that's Jaco Steyn that's gone through. They were still looking at a replay. So I think that he has lost a couple of positions. Yes, Peter Hubert and Jaco Steyn has gone through on him as the checkered flag comes out. And victory goes to Luc Lucchesi with a 41.5 second lead there over Francois Hubert that finishes in that second position. A dominating display here by Luc Lucchesi. Peter Hubert will finish in third. He's 10 seconds behind Francois, but Francois is still trying to find the checkered flag. He's making his way towards the end of the lap. Couple of corners here for Francois Hubert, and then the checkered flag will beat the AlphaTauri sponsored Porsche there of second place man Francois Hubert of Just Race.
There he takes the checkers, and the next man through. Even Iron Rob Teams, Attinagel, there's nothing much. Sliding it into the last corner, and coming through there very neatly is Peter Hubert. Next man to come through is Jaco Steyn. He completes his race. Well done, Jaco. Jens Mamers, I think he'll have spoken Holland, French, and other languages with that little effort that he had. Willem Botha 15 seconds further back, but 2 positions up.
5 places down, and in P7, nearly 6 seconds behind Willem Botha is Gerald Free. Botha in the pit lane. Yes.
You'll take the checkered flag.
You'll take the checkered flag.
All the way around.
Don't need to. Gerald Free finishing there in that 7th position. He's lost 5 positions though. Swayze Hubert will end in 8th position. And he is nearly 20 seconds behind Gerald Fourie. That man you see on screen there, Swayze Hubert, in the Liqui Moly car. And Attinagel has got him. Attinagel right on the last lap, heading towards the checkered flag. Attinagel gets his nose ahead there of Robbie Teens. The flag will be just around this corner. I think it's just around this corner. Yes, it is. And Attinagel, 4/10 of a second. He beats Robbie Teens to the line.
I think if they stay in the same city in Cape Town or wherever, I think they'll go and jump in the wagon and go and get one another a nice ice cold ale, because there was a lovely dice between them. They showed one another lots of respect, made sure they didn't take one another out, and diced it all the way to the end. They must be very, very tired.
Right, JJ van der Merwe will finish in 12th position. And he is 8.3 seconds behind Stephen McCarthy. Then Captain Peter van der Spy gone up 2 positions, as a matter of fact, since this race got underway. He's just out of the top 12. He is 25.7 seconds behind Van der Merwe that got that 12th position. Peter will finish in 13th. And then Gerald Mouget will come through as Van der Spy takes the checkered flag. Gerald Mouget down in 14th position. Nearly 50 seconds behind Van der Spy, but Gerald has gone up 7 positions since this one got underway, and he will finish there in that 14th place He's still making his way down that long straight. There is Gerald Fourie. Here comes Gerald Mauger. So it's Gerald Mauger that sits there in that 14th position.
And he's also getting better and better.
Yeah, he is getting better and better. He's Gerald Mauger. And he's gone up 7. Gerald Mauger, I called him Fourie earlier on. I apologize. Fourie's finished a long time ago. He finished in P7. So that is Gerald Mauger that finishes there in that 14th position. Then David Hubert coming to the line, and he is only 7/10 of a second ahead there of Willem Pinaar, Gary, and that's going down that long straight towards the checkered flag.
I think he's got a big enough gap to hold on to that. Down to 5 seconds, 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, back to 0.4, and now we're coming to the final corner. So, yeah, that is the last left-hander. As they go through the right-hander, they will pick up the checkers from there. 9 places up, 6 places up, and they come through, and then here comes Renier Hubert.
Now Renier will finish in that 17th position. He's gone up 8 positions. He's 26 seconds behind Willem Pinaar. And Renier will finish there in that 17th place, working his way towards the flag. Checkered flag is just around this corner. And then he will finish this one in that 17th position. Wayne Camage in the Mercury sponsored car. He's gone up 8 positions. He'll finish in 18th position in the 222 car, 52 seconds behind Renier Hubert. That has taken the checkered flag. And there is Wayne making his way down that long straight towards the end of the lap. And he will bring this home in 18th position.
Pretty good drive by Wayne Camage, I must say. Wayne Camage is also getting better and better. And it's been pretty much a success story for a lot of the guys that start at the back of the pack, if you want to call it that. And then they grow in stature and they just get better and better. They upgrade the equipment, get around to a whole lot more practicing, and then you see the real talent starting to come through. But a track like this, a completely different scenario to anything and everything else that is the NORDSCHLIEFE, 22.8 kilometers in GT3 992 Cup cars. It's basically you racing against the circuit 99%. Unless your name's Atinach, then you actually fight with other teams or something similar. But everybody else in general out there all by themselves on the circuit. And it's just pure concentration to not make mistakes from there on out.
So Lazarus brings the car home in 19th position, 23.1 seconds behind Camage. And this man you see on screen there, Johan Engelbrecht, down 3 positions, and he is in that 20th position, and he will be the last car out there, because from Ian Riddle all the way down to Jean Manouk is out. We've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, not even within the first few laps of this race, as Engelbrecht finishes in that 20th position.
Wow, that was something else. I tell you what, everything that we hoped for, expected, and more. And we just give the, there we go. It brings it all up for us. It was said before the time. In fact, I'm going to speak out of the house here now. On the group, there was a question asked by one of the guys, what's the lap time scenario? So the answer came back from Mike saying, us, 7 minutes. Luke Lucchese probably about 6 minutes 40, and exactly what he said is what happened. Just 2 seconds. I think the fastest lap was something like a 6:41, if I remember correctly. So Luke Lucchese winning it out, brilliant stuff. His teammate from the 6 hour, Francois Hubert, saying, hey, I'm just as good as what you are. I can also beat the rest of the pack. And then still within a minute after an hour of racing, a lovely drive by the second of the Huberts that's in there in the Hubert.
Yeah, then Jaco Steyn finishes in that 4th position. And it's only those first 4 cars that were within a minute of each other.
If you look at it, Frankie, Jaco Steyn from 58 to 1 minute 5, it's only 7 seconds after an hour outside of a top 3. Very good, Jaco Steyn.
Yeah, and then say what you like, choose who you like.
hardest
My
driver.
driver of the day
Hardest
is
driver.
Jan Sparmers.
Yes, I agree with you. Jan Sparmers fought it all the way. Okay, he didn't do it Nagel, Robbie Teens, but he fought hard. Eventually, he was the master of his own demise. But you know what? Sometimes just have fun out there. Even if you drop 1 or 2 places, but you've had a rave of a time, it's actually what it's all about. And Jan finds himself in a top 5 in any case.
Yeah, he could have got a third. You made a mistake. He does get a top 5. I think it's probably the highest he's ever ended in any case. So that seals the deal for me that, from my point of view, that Jan Sparmers would be driver of the day. Swys Joubert is there in that 6th position. Although I must say, Swys and Peter Joubert done extremely well. All the Jouberts, of them, Francois, Peter, and Swys. The others were a bit further down. David Joubert was further down, and so was Reinier Joubert. But yeah, well done to Swys, and then Willem Botha in that 7th position. Atti Nagel 8th, Robbie Teens 9th, and Gerald Fourie in that top 10.
Atti Nagel, Robbie Teens could have gone either way. Brilliant between them. 1 lap more, 1 lap less, it would have been the opposite way around. Gerald Fourie, one of the people involved in the initial heavy incident, and he found himself working his way back pretty strongly and rounding out the top 10. From Stephen McCarthy, Ranus van der Merwe, Peter van der Spey, Gerald Mazet, David Joubert, Willem Pina, Reinier Joubert, and Wayne Camage. That wraps up the top end of the log. Let's go a little bit further down from Herman Lazarus, Jan Engelbrecht, Ian Riddle, Graham Stephen, Jaco Foster, Mike Berrier. That's all guys that didn't manage to complete it. Andre Steenkamp, Sandro Bakari, Eugene Manuk, and that rounds out 27 of the 28 entrants for the season for Sports and GT Masters. That was brilliant. Thanks very much for joining us, Sports and GT Masters from the Second Gear Production Studio. Frankie, a last word from your side, and looking forward to Kalani International just a couple of sunsets from now.
Yeah, regarding this race, this was different. This is like totally different. How do you commentate this? You can't. You just talk your way through it because 1 hour only gives you 9 laps. So yeah, when we get to the enduro for 6 hours, I think it's going to be tough on competitor and commentator to get through that one. But yes, it was interesting stuff. And what can you say about Luke Lucchese? He's definitely a superstar, that's for sure. And yeah, getting back to this weekend, there's a lot of motorsport all over the country. I know that Gary and FC will be flying out tomorrow. They're doing a commentating stint this weekend in Bloemfontein. And an oval track national they'll be doing there. And I'll be joining the rest of the commentary team down at Kalani International Raceway for the next round of the Wingfield Motors and Best Price for My Car Power series. So I'll be down there. Gary and FC will be in Bloemfontein. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend of real-time racing this coming Saturday.
From the Second Gear Production Studios, thanks for watching us, folks, and good night to you, one and all.